There's about 100 other videos out there on this topic, so before I even started recording, I asked myself, is this even worth making a video of? And while the answer might be no, I was doing the project anyway, so I figured, why not? And hopefully someone out there can get some additional insight from this that they didn't see in any of their other research. Hopefully. Now the topic, of course, is making custom game boxes for your old Game Boy Advance and Game Boy games, ending up with a result something like this. Now the materials you need for this project, first of all, start with, we need some old DS cases, the kind that have the Game Boy Advance slot up there. Now these are just cheapo reproductions from Amazon. They're about $1 a piece. I will put a link to that in the video description. There are, of course, some quality flaws that we're just going to have to accept because they're cheap, but they're serviceable for the project we're doing. Next, you're going to need a printer with 8.5 by 11 standard printer paper. A paper cutter like this is optional. A scissors can also be used if you don't have one of these and just want to get started right away. And you can see for Game Boy Advance, even we had to do a little bit of modification to the rib up there. I don't know if this is true for regular DS cases made by Nintendo, but this rib, when there's a game in there, aligns right with that edge. So when we close it, we get this little bulge going on. That's why we're going to cut this rib away in the area where it would overlap the game. And for the Game Boy games, there's further modification that we're going to need to make, like this. So ultimately, we're going to get a result that looks like this. Not the cleanest on the inside, but that's okay. You only see that when you go to pick out the game. Before we get started, of course, we're going to want a nice clean work surface. And the last tool we're going to use is one of these oscillating multi-tools. Now, you could do this with a box cutter or an X-Acto knife, but since I have this, it's going to rip through that plastic much easier. And you can see I've already been doing some work on it. Like I said before, first thing we're going to modify is this rib. So let's take a piece of cardboard and slip it through in between the plastic just to make sure we don't damage that. And let's take a cut. And you can see we made very quick work of that. There's a little bit here, so we'll touch that up. And so for a Game Boy Advance game, that's all we need to do. Now, if I were going to modify this for a Game Boy game, the process is pretty much identical. We'll remove that area, but also we take out these pieces as well, which you can see came from right there and right there. Now, I'm not going to show cutting this one just because you get the idea. As you can imagine, what we've just done generated a lot of plastic debris. So grab a can of air duster. Back at our extremely clean work surface, you can see, it's not perfect. There's some rough edges in here. How we can deal with that is simply with an X-Acto knife and just kind of touch up some of those spots where the plastic is rough and ragged. So for Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, like these two, you should remove this rib as well as that stuff I showed outside a moment ago. I've added electrical tape on either side of this just to cover up that hole that was created when we cut out the DS game slot. And you can see this will fit a Game Boy Color game and a Game Boy game. At this point, all we need to do is get an artwork for the game box. If you're watching this video, it's pretty likely you're already familiar with thecoverproject.net. We're going to head there, search for the artwork that we want, save it to our computer, and open it up in our photo gallery. Next, we'll press Control P to print, and in the dialog that pops up, we're just going to uncheck Fit Picture to Frame so that the image fills the whole page. and this is already sized correctly from the people on the cover project who contributed. Thanks a lot to them. It makes this process really easy. So we simply send it to our printer from here by pressing print. And this is what we should see come out. This is just basic paper. Any somewhat modern printer should print it in decent quality. And when we put it in the game case, it has the glossy plastic film that's going to make it appear to have, a shinier finish. And now it's time to cut it out. Again, you can do this with the scissors if you want. It's perfectly fine. I just found the paper cutter to be much faster and more accurate. And that is all there is to it. And the last step is just putting it together. This one's already pre-folded, but it goes in there pretty easy when it's flat. Not bad. Put the game in. If all went as planned, your end result should look something like this. You can tell right away this is a lot cleaner, a lot nicer than having loose cartridges scattered about in a shoebox or wherever. In this format, you can display your games. It's a lot more likely you're going to play them in this way as well. Now, even with the very low quality DS boxes aftermarket from Amazon, and with a standard printer on basic paper, you can see the quality ends up quite good. I am really happy with the results here, and I would recommend it if you're looking for a way to either display or make more accessible your old handheld games. Again, hope it helps, and thanks for watching.